Picture this absolute fever dream of human entitlement. A woman in leopard print leggings that looked like they were painted on by a drunk toddler, standing in the middle of a perfectly ordinary sidewalk outside Target, screaming at a jogger that she OWNS a concrete beneath his feet, and I'm not talking metaphorically. People, this woman genuinely believed she had purchased municipal property like it was a clearance item at Walmart. I know half of you are already typing fake in the comments because your brain simply cannot process this level of cosmic delusion. But buckle up, buttercups, because we're just getting started on this magical mystery tour of weaponized stupidity. Meet Karen, a woman whose sense of entitlement was so massive it probably had its own gravitational pull. Sporting a haircut that screamed I peaked in high school, and I am taking it out on minimum wage workers, complete with chunky highlights that looked like they were applied with a paintbrush dipped in bleach and regret. She stood there like a polyester-clad dictator surveying her imaginary kingdom, clutching a bedazzled phone case in one hand and what appeared to be a gas station energy drink in the other, her entire being radiating the kind of confidence that only comes from never being told no by anyone with a functioning spine. The poor jogger, just trying to get his cardio in while listening to what I assume was a perfectly reasonable podcast about serial killers or cryptocurrency, suddenly found himself face to face with this sidewalk sovereign, who began shrieking about trespassing on private property while gesturing wildly at the public walkway, like she was presenting evidence in the trial of the century. This woman, and I cannot stress this enough, was dead serious. She wasn't pranking anyone. She wasn't having a mental health crisis. She was just cosmically, catastrophically wrong about how property ownership works. Standing there like a discount real estate mogul in athleisure wear, demanding this man show papers to walk on what she claimed was her sidewalk, the jogger, bless his heart, tried explaining basic municipal law to someone whose understanding of legal concepts appeared to have been gleaned entirely from Facebook memes. But Karen wasn't having it. She wanted to speak to the manager of the sidewalk, and when informed that sidewalks don't have managers, she did what any reasonable person would do. She called the cops on a man for the heinous crime of jogging while existing within minutes, because apparently the universe has a sense of humor. The actual police officers arrived on scene, probably expecting a noise complaint or maybe a fender bender, only to discover they'd been summoned to mediate what can only be described as the dumbest property dispute in human history. Officer Johnson and Officer Martinez stepped out of their patrol car, looking like they'd rather be literally anywhere else, their expression shifting from professional concern to barely contained bewilderment as Karen immediately launched into a dissertation about her sidewalk rights that sounded like it had been written by a lawyer who learned law from cereal boxes. She presented her case with the confidence of someone arguing before the Supreme Court, complete with dramatic hand gestures and references to documentation that turned out to be a blurry screenshot of her house's listing on Zillow, as if real estate websites were legal documents that conveyed ownership of the entire neighborhood infrastructure. The officers, to their credit, tried maintaining their poker faces while Karen explained that purchasing her house 3 months ago had obviously included all adjacent walkways and public areas within a reasonable radius, a phrase she delivered with the same conviction most people reserve for stating their own names. Officer Johnson, clearly the veteran of the duo, attempted to gently explain that sidewalks are public property maintained by the city, but Karen cut him off mid-sentence to demand he arrest the jogger for theft of services because he was using my concrete without permission. A legal theory so spectacularly wrong that I am pretty sure it violated several laws of physics, along with basic common sense. The poor jogger, still standing there in his moisture-wicking shirt and increasingly confused expression, tried to jog away from this circus, but Karen blocked his path like a polyester bouncer, shrieking that he couldn't leave until he paid her a sidewalk usage fee of $20 cash, apparently unaware that extortion is actually illegal while jogging very much is not. Officer Martinez, clearly newer to the force and probably wondering if this was some elaborate training exercise, started explaining municipal property law to a woman who responded by pulling up Google Maps on her phone and circling the entire block, while declaring herself the sidewalk queen of Maple Street, a title that I am fairly certain doesn't exist in any governmental structure outside of Karen's fever dreams. The situation reached peak absurdity when Karen demanded the officers provide her with sidewalk rental forms so she could start charging pedestrians, apparently having invented an entire business model based on fundamentally misunderstanding property law, while simultaneously threatening to sue the city for allowing unauthorized use of her concrete, which is roughly equivalent to suing the ocean for being wet. The officers exchanged a look that conveyed about 17 different emotions, none of them positive, as Karen whipped out her phone to start recording her own arrest, except she wasn't being arrested. She was being gently informed that she was completely, catastrophically, cosmically wrong about everything, but she began narrating her police harassment to her camera, like she was broadcasting the evening news, creating what I can only describe as the world's most delusional Facebook live stream. The grand finale came when Karen, in a moment of pure inspirational insanity, announced she was placing the officers under citizen's arrest for facilitating sidewalk theft, a phrase so beautifully stupid that Officer Johnson actually started laughing, which only enraged Karen further as she demanded to speak to their supervisor about their unprofessional attitude toward property crime, apparently still convinced that a man jogging constituted grand larceny of municipal infrastructure, at which point Officer Martinez calmly informed her that if she didn't stop harassing people on public property, she'd be the one getting arrested, causing Karen to deflate like a punctured balloon filled with entitlement and confusion, mumbling something about researching her rights as she finally shuffled back to her house, leaving the jogger free to continue his run and probably reconsider every life choice that led him to that particular sidewalk on that particular day.